lady, let's continue with this discussion and we'll look where we are headed to right now. Let's talk about the initiatives that are coming up. First of all, just to prime our viewers who are joining us, and I know Ali, you had alluded to that. You can tell us, especially with KEPSA, because this is not the first time that we've been doing this particular Kenya Daima initiative. It has been ongoing with the private sector as well. Yeah. But why is it that when we have a general election, you know, is when we can hear of Kenya Daima? Why is it that when we have a general election, it is always when we are doing things under the wire? Shouldn't it be a continual process, you know, over the years to make sure that we have a peaceful country? Wahu?
Actually, Kenya Daima is always doing different initiatives.
Yes.
During election period and even out of election period. Yes. You know, we've been around since 2012, and there are different things that we've been involved in during the entire course of our existence. And what I can say is it just looks a lot more visible now, just because of the nature of the environment that we are in right now. But you're right, it is very important for all people in civil society and people in different peace initiatives to have a consistency in their activities, in their initiatives, in whatever it is that they're doing throughout, not just around election time.
Yes.
And maybe I could just say, in as much as KEPSA has spearheaded Kenya Daima. Kenya Daima is actually made up of different players across you know, different representation. We know we have religious leaders, we have civil society, we have musicians, we have business people. So basically, in as much as it has been spearheaded by KEPSA, it is really a representation of different aspects of the country, different aspects of the economy, different aspects, you know. So what we are doing right now, like I told you, just because of the nature of where we are at, it is very important for us to ensure that we have peace during elections. Not only before, and not only that, we also have to take charge in terms of who we are putting in power. You know, we have to be able to vet, we have to kagua, and we're trying to go out to the ground and we're telling guys, it's your responsibility, ni wajibu wako, you know? Don't blame people after. Take responsibility now. Put this guy on the spot. Look at the Constitution. What does the Constitution say? Does he resonate with what Chapter 6 says about leadership? You know, who you're talking to, he or she, for that matter.
Right.
Do they resonate with that? So those are the things we're telling guys, go out there. Don't just listen to the politics and the he said, she said, because there's a lot of that going on. Go down to the, you know, what is their manifesto? What are they saying they're going to do? What is their track record? These are the more important issues, and that's what Kenya Daima is all about right now on the ground. And like I told you, we are also going to the people who are vying for positions of leadership and telling them, listen, it's your responsibility, ni wajibu wako, to make sure, right, that this country goes through a peaceful period around now. So that's what we're doing right now.
All right, so what sort of also activities are involved in this, right? You can, because when we see your face, we know Wahu, she's a singer. So are you going around holding concerts?
There's definitely going to be that.
Also, yes?
There's definitely going to be that. There's going to be a lot of people, and I'm personally telling like my fellow musicians right now what's important, even for the sake of your business as a musician, right? Right now what's important is not so much to align yourself with an individual or a party, but to align yourself with the benefit of the country and spread peace, talk peace. So I'm talking to my fellow musicians in that light to join us, and let's spread peace. Let's not align ourselves with individuals. Let's do that. So we're going to have music concerts. We're going to the ground. We're talking to different stakeholders, the youth, small business owners as well, telling them, listen, at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to make sure that a good leader is put in place. Your leader, your MCA, your senator, your governor, right? So we have that, and as well, we are also talking, you know, to, like I told you, to people who are vying for position and telling them you have a responsibility too, you know, to make sure that, you know, you stay true to what you're saying. You know, like we said before, there's a lot of people who come out here and say a lot of good things, and then behind the scenes, you know, they're up to no good. So that's why we are saying it's important for you to sign this peace pledge so that we can hold you accountable even after and say, hey, listen, why is this happening in your docket? Why is this happening under your watch.
Thank you. Let's also get to know what is happening today, because there is a reflection on the forum you're having in the afternoon, and you've also invited Brendan Cox,
right,
who is a husband to I think the former legislator,
right,
of I don't know what county she came from.
Button, what is it? Bartley and Spartan, I think is the phrase. I may have got a slightly mixed, but it was a Yorkshire constituency.
Yes.
And she was a very dynamic, very pro-development minded person. She had worked for many years within the European Union, or worked on the European Union. She was a personal assistant to Glenys Kinnock for many years, the wife, and also in her own right a leader within the UK. It's really a dynamic, very powerful woman that was really concerned about refugees and humanitarian issues and so on. So if she was alive today, she would still be in Parliament, I'm sure, on our national screen here, talking about Syria and various other things. And she was killed by a lone wolf who was empowered, unfortunately, by the anti-immigration sentiment just around Brexit. And she was, murdered really on the streets of her constituency, and left 2 children, motherless, and really a country in mourning. I mean, one of the things that was, I think, was very powerful for me is that, as I think back about Brexit and this election that's coming up on June the 8th is really a, it's kind of closing the business of Brexit, because they had a referendum on withdrawing from the European Union, and then, essentially it's caused chaos within the political spectrum, with really the 2 parties struggling with what's the implications of this, and an electorate really now beginning to wonder whether it was a good idea or not. And, Joe Cox really, for me, symbolizes a turning point within British political, I guess, democracy. So that event is happening today. It's at 4 o'clock, and Brendan Cox will be speaking at that event, and he'll be sharing views from global perspectives on the Kenyan context. But we also have Honorable Mohamed Elmi, who is a veteran politician, representative of the from Wajir, Tarbaj constituency, and Winnie Mutula, who's a renowned political scientist, non-partisan, and very smart woman, who will basically, for the 2 hours between 4 and 6 at the National Museum, talk about what's showing up in the electoral space, and also what we need to do as citizens. And I think your other question was really, the question you asked, Wahu, was a good one, which is, what are people doing? And I think there are probably 4 areas. Alongside the dialogue that's happening this afternoon, something that's new this year, I think this elections, is that we're seeing local community organizations beginning to organize their own debates. So over the last week or so in Nairobi, we saw 3 debates happen at the ward level. One was in Kilimani with the Kili Logs, as it was called. Langata also had Langata Speaks, and South Sea have also called their aspirants to basically talk to them on an issue-based platform. What is it that they stand for? And primarily asking them to listen to the electorate before they form their campaign manifestos. And that's a shift, I think. The second thing that I think is really important, and this is why I think it's really important not to delink peace and credibility and peace and justice, is a number of organizations have actually begun the process of holding the IEBC's feet to the fire in terms of integrity issues. So I think the judgment just recently in terms of the reporting of results, and that they should be at the local centers rather than at the national tallying, the headquarters for IEBC, that's an important step forward. I think also the pressure on digital technology is extremely important to make sure that that is not forgone, because as we know, one of the big, a number of the parties do not accept the idea that there will be a manual or that the elections will be managed through manual, if you can use that word, technology. Right. The third and last one, just the last one, is really around red carding. And I think there's an important campaign that needs to be waged by citizens around Chapter 6 and the integrity clause. And I think that, for me, is the turning point about whether this election is a step forward or a step back with a whole new set of corrupt, violent, and divisive candidates. And I think what candidates need to be doing now at this point is really challenging the quality of leadership. Right.
Let's say from also global peace, what are the initiatives as we're getting up towards the general elections as well from your end?
Yeah, I think the election period usually is a chance to educate the masses on the policies, the manifestos that the candidates have, the parties have. So this period is very, very critical, and that's why for us, we think the IBC has a very, very important task, especially now, because it's not just the day of the elections, but I think the process of campaigns, how the campaigns are going on, you know, they talk about issue-based campaigns, but right now, if you go anywhere, I was in Nyanza this weekend, and the people there are basically seated waiting for the next politician to come. And when they come, they're basically asking for handouts. And then the politicians are actually giving handouts. And this is against the electoral laws. It's very clear. Our laws are very clear on voter bribery, on early campaigns. But, you know, it's like the laws are not there. So what we're doing as Global Peace, basically working with the various partners to be able to encourage Kenyans to transform the image of the nation. This election presents us with a chance to demonstrate to the world that we are a civilized democracy. And how we conduct these elections will actually redeem our image in terms of what happened in 2007, 2008. So our target is working with the youth, because the politicians are there now, right now. They think that the money that they have, that they dish out to the youth, is what gets them elected. They have completely refused to talk about issues. So issue-based politics has been put at the back burner. So these elections, we keep saying that the election should be about the 80% young people, not about the 20% political class. And I think civic education is very, very important here. And I must express my disappointment. Of course, when the president says he doesn't want civic education, you need civic education. The political class needs civic education. They need to understand that the more you give out handouts, you create dependency amongst these people, and you're creating a problem that you will not be able to recover from in the next years to come.
Thank you. Of course, also we have callers hanging on the line. We'd love to hear from them. We have Simon on the line. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, Debarl.
Morning to you.
That is a great conversation.
Yes.
And I want to tell the nation through this program that issues of corruption are planted at home, they just at primary school, they are not at secondary school, they are delivered at the university or college, and then they are nurtured at the workplace. So what is missing here is virtually civic education at home, civic education at primary school, civic education at secondary school, civic education at university, and even civic education within the community, so that we have a nation that is moving forward. Remember, this democracy we have is not African homegrown. Yes. It is borrowed from other countries, but the ethical part was not borrowed from the other countries and incorporated. So we seem to be swimming in waters without a lifebuoy for rescuing us. So that is what I am appealing for, civic education to start right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon from Bungoma. We have Samar Alkini as well, hanging on the line. Good morning, Samar.
Good morning, Debarl.
Morning to you. You have a contribution or a question for our panelists?
Yes, I have a contribution.
Please.
You know, it beats logic. It beats logic.
Yes. Yeah, Samar, I will kindly request you to just you know, tone down on the volume on your television so that we can hear you clearly. Don't listen to yourself on the television.
So what I'm saying is,
yes,
it beats logic that we should be preaching peace to our leaders. Because this should be a straightforward thing for me, and it's the most basic human right to have peace.
Yes.
You know, a peaceful country is peace is the primary international prerequisite for the material well-being, development, and progress of countries.
Yes.
And for the full implementation of the rights and fundamental human freedoms. So I feel that we are wasting so many resources instead of directing these resources to advance our country, help the needy, alleviate poverty levels, we are actually spending money on peace initiatives. And the very reason why we should say no to any leader who does otherwise. Each of our leaders must be an advocate and an ambassador for peace. The most expensive peace is cheaper than the cheapest war. And we cannot go there as a country. Never again. Yeah. And, you know, Martin Luther King, I'll end with Martin Luther King's quote, that if we are to have peace on earth, our loyalties must transcend our race, our tribe, our class, and our nation. And this means we must develop a world perspective.
Very true.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Samar, there for your sentiment. And we want also to hear from you what you're saying on Twitter as well. And also, of course, Usha Jose Candidil will take us there to see what you're saying on Facebook and Twitter as well. Usha?
Right, we do appreciate your feedback. Remember, for every Kenyan, this is a conversation you must be joining in, because at the end of the day, regardless of which party you're choosing, who your preferred presidential candidate is, all that we want as Kenyans is peace for this country. So remember, if you still haven't gotten your comment through, AM Live NTV is our home. That is on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. AM Live NTV is where you can get us. So looking at the comments that you've been sending so far, we have at Amos Kitui, who says, nobody seems to accept the result of ongoing party primaries. In any contest, there must be a winner and a loser. Indeed, that is among the root causes when people don't accept defeat. But then again, that depends on whether there was any rigging involved, but truly it is also up to the leaders to accept defeat when they actually have lost fairly. We have at Jacob Abere, who says civil society has to take a role in educating citizens about electoral processes and rights, as well as creating awareness. We have Emmanuel, who says credibility is the antidote to electoral violence. Rigging and election fraud won't be tolerated. It truly shouldn't, not if we want to have peaceful country. We have John Gidanga, whose contribution is, he says, in our FB group, Nakuru Golden Years and Today, I have been calling on people from Nakuru to give peace a chance during this election time. And indeed, this doesn't only spread to Nakuru. We are asking all of Kenya to give this election peace, to give peace a chance during this election. We have Trapakeitas, who actually just reiterates what Wahu Kagwi said, which is 2007 was real. It wasn't a dream. People are still suffering up to date. We have a peace pledge and we need it signed. We have at Ali Daib, who says the youth should choose our country over tribe and vote wisely. Our tribe is in Kenya. I think this is my favorite. Indeed, before anything, before our tribes, we are all Kenyans. And finally, we have at NTO, who says when a corrupt person is elected, it is not his fault, it is our fault. So let us vet for a better leadership. Let's get better leaders in power. And indeed, that is true. We should vote for the best type of leaders. And ultimately, when we do pick the wrong leaders, it's our fault and not theirs, because when we picked them, we knew exactly what they were going to do once they got onto that platform. So last week, on a day like this, we were talking about human trafficking. And among the central theme that came up, just like in several other issues that we're facing, is education and the need of it. Take a look.
We have a number of issues that we need to address. If you look at the 5 Ps, in terms of prevention, of course, awareness is there. But again, at the same time, we've also been addressing some of the push factors that push these people into trafficking, not only internationally, but also domestically. So some of them are actually poverty, awareness raising, working with children, like you've asked me, in the schools. But at the same time, also trying to address, making sure that children are in school. If you look at the Kenyan statistics, there's no transition. If you look at those who finish class 8 and those who transit to Form 1, there are a number of children, thousands of children who don't transit. And these are some of the children that are actually being targeted for trafficking.
Right, you can get the full video on our YouTube page, that's Kenya NTV. Remember, the conversation on peace goes on our social media, and it should not only go on today, it should go on until the elections and even after. Back to you, Debarl.
And we want also to be wrapping up, and thank you for your tweets as well. We really do appreciate your feedback, our callers as well. And also, we know that KEPSA, with Kenya Daima, we know Wahu also, she's an ambassador. They've come up with this particular initiative. Just take a look at it. All right, Wahu will tell us about this briefly as we're winding up this particular clip, and of course, just to give us our headline thoughts as we're winding up as well, Juma and Irungu as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like I've just been reiterating, and I think some people on your Twitter handles have said, it's very important to vet. At the end of it all, you know, it's our responsibility, you know, to make sure we get the right leaders in place. Because after elections, when they're actually in term, we are the ones who are either going to enjoy or suffer the brunt of who they are. So it's very important right now, it's very critical for us to look and see who are we, beyond party, beyond tribe, beyond religion, beyond all that. What is your quality? Who are you? Are you able to propel my country into a better place? And I want to give a very, very small example, well, just to tone it down a little bit, because it's very important for me at this point to help or to spread the message that the power really is with us. It is not with the people who are vying for positions. It is not with the leaders. It actually is with us. And I'm going to give this small example. I mean, my child is in class 4, right? For me, it is very important. What kind of teacher is she with? Is he ethical? Is he or she ethical? Does he or she care about my child? Does he show interest in her future? You get? Mm-hmm. And these are things that parents look out for. And this is the attitude we have to go into elections with. Are you able to take care of myself and my children? Are you able? Where's your heart at? Mm-hmm. Is it about being self-serving, or is it genuinely about this country? That is the attitude we have to embrace.
Thank you.
Yes.
Right. Irungu?
So I think a couple of points. I think the point by Simon about homegrown corruption, I think, is very illustrative of, I think, the challenge that we have. But I think we need to be clear that we do not have a constitutional or legal right to elect the devil. Mm-hmm. The constitutional debate in 2010 ruled that out. There's something called Chapter 6 that says even in nursery schools and primary schools that there actually are standards that we expect public officers to have. There are two studies I think are really important for the viewers to be aware of. One is in December, very quickly.
We are winding up.
88% of the people who were polled in December did not think this election was about issues. In April of this year, a few weeks ago, the study that was done by the Center for Multi-Party Democracy said 56% of the voters had received a bribe or had been involved in a bribery case. 56%. 56%. That's almost 1 for 1, right? Now, if you want, people don't like statistics. There was a frightening, wonderfully frightening story about a border association chair somewhere in Western who was complaining that when the political aspirant was handing out bribes, that he was not organizing it properly, and that actually what needed to happen is that people needed to form sober, orderly queues so that we don't scramble and the politicians don't throw money out of their cars. And I realized if there's a definition of insanity in terms of our country, that could be the one. Right? Lastly, if you do not understand what is at stake, very briefly,
Director, she's on my case.
There is no employer that employs staff without ensuring that if they commit a crime, if they rape somebody, if they are involved in a scandal, that they do not lose their jobs. We're about to recruit hundreds, if not thousands of people with those powers. And I think it's really important as we move forward that we make sure that the right people go into the offices at the county, at the national level.
Thank you, thank you. Juma, very briefly.
Kenya is a constitutional democracy, and the constitution gives us that chance to elect our leaders every 5 years. Election is not an excuse for people to die or for people to fight one another. So I think it's a part of our political culture. We really need to make sure that the elections are done in such a way that people don't have to die. And my challenge is to the stakeholders, especially the IEBC, please deliver a credible election. And then the Kenyans, I would like to see an election where people come in and vote. The other day I was in Makini School, and young children voted without, all these things we're seeing. No voter bribery, no ballot stuffing, but grown-ups cannot even handle an election. So it is a chance for us to show the world that we are politically mature.
Thank you. Thank you.